next thing I know, I was broke and my bakery still hadn't been open. And that's when I really got depressed. And that's when I really started to realize that, like, okay, this is really difficult and I'm in way over my head.
You're listening to the Black Directory Podcast, where we focus on bringing Black entrepreneur experiences to the forefront. Each week, we will discuss the highs, the lows, and everything in between. I'm your host, Diamond Young. Let's dive in. Owner, pastry chef David Benton started Sugarsweet Cookie and Cake Studio in 2009, baking in his duplex kitchen in East Oakland. Self-taught with only YouTube tutorials and baking books to guide him, David spent the next few years perfecting recipes and selling his beautiful pastries online from his duplex. Combining his love for delicious old-fashioned baked goods with a modern artistic twist on design, Sugarsweet became a sought-after success, making it one of the busiest online bakeries in the Bay Area. Let's dive in. Hi, everyone. I would like to welcome pastry chef David Benton. He's the owner of Sugarsweet Cookie and Cake Studio, the hottest bakery in Oakland, California.
Yes.
Welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. I'm so happy to have you here.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate
it. How does
it
feel? How does it feel having the hottest bakery in Oakland?
Ooh, do I?
Hey, I'm gonna gas you up. You have the hottest bakery in Oakland, so It's something to be proud of.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I didn't know that, but I'm loving it. And,
you're embracing it.
Yes, absolutely. They've really welcomed us in the neighborhood that we're in. So, it does feel like maybe that's possible that I do have the hottest bakery. I just don't, sometimes when you're right in the middle of something, you don't sort of realize all the hotness that's going on around you.
Right.
You're just working. So, but, I know people like our stuff and that's a real blessing, very, very grateful for that. And, I don't know. It's cool. I love it.
It's cool, Yeah. This is a normal day.
I guess I'm always thinking of it from the point of view of just, I'm working. I get up every morning and I always call myself a working stiff. So I never see a lot of the popularity or whatever it is that is out there going on. Because I have, my head is so far in the sand with working that, I don't really see a whole lot of what's going on outside of the bakery. And, I don't really go out. I don't have that much of a social life. So it's just work. So I always just tell people I'm a working stiff. That's the only thing I know about is work. So.
But that's a cool place to be in, to where, you're just enjoying what you're doing. Yeah. You're not even necessarily as distracted of what's going on and who's talking about what. You're just putting your best foot forward.
Exactly. And, that's just how I just sort of get through my day. And, and then that's pretty much it,
How has business been for you? Of course, with the pandemic, it's impacted so many businesses. When I was living in Oakland, even in that first 1 to 2 months, there were already businesses that weren't going to come back. They were already permanently closing. How did it impact your business?
Well, in the very beginning, when it first started, we definitely saw a dip. And one of the biggest dips that I noticed was in the wedding cakes. Because before the pandemic, people were coming to me and they were ordering these huge wedding cakes, and everybody was getting ready for these big weddings and stuff. Everybody was already thinking about June, and this was already in January. So we were getting all these orders. And as soon as the pandemic hit and it got serious and people were doing sheltering in place and all of that stopped. Those big wedding cakes weren't coming in. We weren't really having all those orders. And so sales and money and all that, it just really dropped. But I'm going to be honest with you. It seemed like it wasn't maybe about 3, 4, maybe 6 months. There was a little bit of a dip, but people started to order wedding cakes again pretty fast.
Really?
Believe it or not. And honestly, I think we did better during the pandemic than we did before it. And I know that's probably something you don't hear a lot of people saying, but we did
Yeah.
during the pandemic. We did all right. Because, I mean, the thing is we have different things at the bakery. So it's not just cakes. It's not just cupcakes. It's not just cookies. It's all of those things. And so we also use the cupcakes and the cookies to sell the cakes, to sell which is our sort of bread and butter. But, people like the cookies. They love the cupcakes. So they automatically assume they're going to like the cakes. We do a really good job on design and decorating and all that stuff. They love it. People have given us some really nice Yelp reviews, and they've just been coming. And, somebody has a birthday every day. So,
yeah.
And they wanted to celebrate. People were in the house. They wanted to celebrate. If it was just most of the time, it was really small little celebrations. But I mean, I'll be honest with you. It seemed like the wedding cakes, people weren't really going to let the pandemic stop them from having their big celebrations. Now, we weren't getting a lot, but we were still getting them. I mean, there's a lot of hard-headed people out there,
Basically.
They're just like, I'm going to have my wedding,
And that's what's interesting on social media. I saw, you could tell people were divided.
Yeah.
Well, I'm still going to celebrate whether it was a
Right.
wedding. And then you also have graduation season and things like that. That was kind of in that same time frame, and birthdays, because I would see I don't know if you saw this, but on social media, people would have like the drive-through birthday party. So their child would be in the yard just waving, and everyone would be driving outside. So it was hard to gauge, like, are people still getting not married, because they were, and some people delayed their dates. They kind of pushed everything back.
They did. And we got a couple of those too. We got a number of those, but there were still a lot of people who, even when they did the drive-bys, they were still ordering cakes and things like that. And, having the little Zoom parties, or maybe they might've had a little gathering where people came in and got stuff and left and all that.
Yeah.
The celebrations did not stop. They really didn't. And, a lot of them came to us to get their stuff. So that was really nice. And like I said, we did all right.
And that's amazing. It is amazing. This has been such a trying time for all business owners. And we have this whole PPP loan thing going on. And everyone's just trying to, find the right resources for them and survive. And a lot of people had to decrease their staff too. I heard that a lot, where if they were open, they had to sacrifice something or start partnering with Uber Eats and those, sites, just to have that delivery aspect. So did you have to do anything different with that, or you already had that in place?
No, we did. We also had to lay off staff. And then we did pick up working with Uber Eats, and then we Grubhub, and what was the other one? DoorDash was the other one that we worked with. So we went through all of that, all those things in the beginning. So I had to lay off people, and then I started hiring people again, and the DoorDash and the Grubhub and all that stuff. Those things really, really helped a lot, because those kept sales going in, and those orders were coming in, and people were ordering from us pretty regularly, and then they'd come in and get their cakes, or people were still coming by. We were still getting like walk-ups and things like that. So it all helped, and we just kept trugging along. We just kept going and going, and I don't know, people just, I don't know. I think the other thing that helps, and got to sort of pop my collar a little bit about this, is that, like, just having a good product and something that people like is going to get people to keep coming, and people really love our cookies. They love our cupcakes, and they love our cakes, and they just kept coming. They didn't stop. So that was a big
even when they couldn't get in, and you had to give it to them.
Exactly. And I think they were okay with that. I think people now are getting a little bit irritated. They were just kind of looking at us like, you still not letting us in? They're like standing there just waiting. But it's like, we got to be careful about all that. I know they're saying that we should just be flying our doors open and letting everybody in. And we're kind of ready to do it, but we still want to do it cautiously. But yeah, we did.
I was going to ask, are you doing like a slower rollout as far as the mask thing and who's coming in and the capacity?
Yeah, we are. Because right now we're on vacation. We're closed up until next Tuesday. And So my plan was to, once we sort of go back to the bakery and we open up again, we were going to let people just come in. But I don't know. I still think there should be some sort of like guidelines and some rules on that. Maybe let a few people in at a time or one group at a time. Because for one thing, the bakery is really small anyway. And like, any more than 3 or 4 people in there, it feels crowded,
Yeah.
So we're still trying to sort of figure out how are we going to do this? Are we going to have the 6 feet apart thing? Are we going to allow maybe 3 people in at a time? Something like that. So that's still kind of going on in our heads, and we're still trying to figure that out. And we're also kind of like looking at what other people are doing and what other bakeries, how are they doing this? Because then you listen to the news and one minute they're saying, okay, you've got to have a mask. And then next minute you don't have, don't.
Exactly.
So
it's so confusing.
It's kind of confusing, and I'm even thinking, when we go back on Tuesday, like, are we really going to open? I mean, what are they going to tell us next? You know what I mean? I heard even something about they were going to extend it past the 15th. Like, it wasn't going to happen or was it tomorrow? Like, it's not going to happen tomorrow.
June 15th, yeah.
It might like extend to another date. So,
It's so much to keep up with. And I think, if anything, it's teaching us to be adaptable. Like, we have no choice but to kind of adapt and go with the flow, but try to stay optimistic. And then, we're, in a sense, we're leaders in our community. So you have the best interest in mind for your customers, even if they don't understand.
Right, exactly.
And they want what they want. It's like, hey, we're looking out for you. We're trying to think ahead and minimize and prevent what may happen or may come up, is because we've seen it all in the last year.
Yeah. And you definitely want to keep everybody's health a priority, including your employees, and your customers and yourself. So all those things are, go into all of these different decisions that we have to make, and, all these different ideas and stuff. So all we can really do at this point is just sort of like wait and see and I always kind of like to sort of get a feel of what my customers are feeling and how they're sort of, their behavior. That's why it just seems like now they're ready to come in. And I know that's kind of like what they want to do, but, we still have to see. But
they're like, let me in.
Right. We want to see this place. We've been standing outside.
We're tired of being outside. Yeah. They're ready to come in and eat. And it's a beautiful thing though. It's all in due time, but it's like, wow, that's a good problem to have, I think.
It really is.
But I want to transition a little bit and just spend some time on how you got started. Like, what led you to where you are now? When did you know that you wanted to be a baker?
Well, I originally was always cooking as a kid and growing up and stuff. I left home when I was about 17, and I was always cooking for myself, and I never baked. Was never interested in baking. And so as I got a little bit older, I started having like these little dinner parties and stuff, and people were coming over, and I was getting really into following recipes and looking at stuff online and cookbooks and things like that. And people kept encouraging me to do something with it because they really liked what I was doing. And I never really wanted to take it seriously. For me, it was just a hobby, something to do, a little thing to have friends over and stuff like that. So I never really took it that seriously, but people just kept encouraging me. So finally, I decided to enroll myself into culinary school to try to be a chef. And so while I was in culinary school, when you're in culinary school, you have all these different classes. You have like a butchery class, you have like a foods of Europe class, and you have baking classes. So your first baking class is like really easy. You just learn how to do different things. And then you have an intermediate or not, but a more advanced baking class. So when I took the first baking class, it was cool. I liked it. It was something about it I really liked. I wasn't really into the breads and the croissants and all that kind of stuff. I was more into like the sweets, the colors. I'm an artist, so I always sort of look at the artistic aspect of all that stuff. So by the time I got to the more advanced class, which was at the very, very tail end of the school year, and I got to do the wedding cakes and the different working with fondant and all those colors. I realized that this is what I wanted to do. And so I realized that I had went through all this schooling to be a chef, only to realize I don't want to be a chef anymore. So I
It
had to
happens to the best of us.
right. So I had to figure out, okay, how am I going to do this baking thing? I can't go back to school. I don't have no more money. So I figured, well, I'll learn on my own. I'll do YouTube tutorials. I'll buy some books and I'll take a few classes here and there. And I did that, and that was okay. I even did an internship at a couple of places. But for about 5 years, I made some really, really bad cakes, some really ugly cakes, and some, just a lot of things that just weren't really all that great.
Black Directory wants to hear from you. We're now accepting questions and topics that you would like to hear us cover on the podcast. Check out our show notes to see how you can submit a question, or feel free to slide in our DMs. Back to the episode.
Right after culinary school ended, I did an internship. I did one at a restaurant, and then I did one at a bakery. And I really didn't like working in the industry. I didn't like the kitchen atmosphere. There's so much drama, and there was just a lot of jostling, a lot of chefs jostling for the attention of the head chef. And, it just was a lot of stuff that I just wasn't cool with. And I realized, and that was kind of like another roadblock for me, because at that time I kept trying to figure out, like, how am I going to do this? How can I really learn how to be a pastry chef if I don't even have industry experience? And so I told myself that I wasn't going to work in anybody else's kitchen anymore. I was just going to do my own thing. But doing my own thing, which was just sort of making cakes and sort of learning on my own, that was really, really hard. And so from the time I graduated, which was like in 2004 to 2009, which was those 5 years, I really made some really bad cakes, and I was trying to do stuff for people, and I really didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have a lot of free time. I was still working in offices and stuff. So I was only time I had to even work on cakes was like on the weekends, and then that's around 2009. That's when the recession sort of hit. It was it was really big, and, everybody's getting laid off of work. But for me, that was a really, really good thing, because they laid me off. And what it did was it freed up a lot of my time, and it gave me an income for 2 whole years. So for those 2 years, I was just baking and baking. I was, like a scientist in the kitchen, trying to learn all these different recipes. And like I said, I was really dedicated to getting better at this. And I started copying things that I saw on Google and recreating them. And, it was really fun. It turned into this thing that, for me, was really, really fun. And I really almost got obsessed with it. Once I started to sort of get the hang of what I was doing, and I was, and I started to see my own progress and posting things online, I really, really got into it. It was fun. It was kind of like one of those things where, if I had a choice to hang out with friends or go out or something like that, or make a cake, recreate something that I saw online, I stayed home and did the cake.
Wow.
Yeah. And that says a lot. And it's just amazing how you were able to pivot. Honestly, I don't know if I could have went 5 years with the bad cakes. I feel like it's like because you start to feel insecure or it's a possibility that you would start to feel insecure of okay, yes, my friends may have said that I should do this, but should I? Or, and I don't know. And is this my lane? And it's just not coming out right. And it's just, how did you stay so connected to it, to where it's like you didn't give up? Or did you have times where you took a few months off and you were discouraged and you came back? What was that like?
Well, the thing is I knew that the biggest problem was I didn't have time. So I knew that if I just had enough time to really dedicate to this, to put the hours into this, I could get better. I'm a firm believer that if you work on something every day, you'll get good at it. It doesn't matter what it is. If you dedicate yourself to whatever it is, if I decide today I want to be a concert pianist and I work on that every single day, I'm going to get good at it. And I knew that I didn't have that time. And I guess there was times where I sort of felt like, I've been doing this now for a couple of years. I'm not any good at it, but I just kept, I don't know. I just believed that something was going to happen, that I was going to be able to have that time or that moment to be able to get better. And it showed up. It actually happened, And when it happened, I grabbed that opportunity. I knew that having those 2 years was exactly what I needed. I didn't squander that time. I didn't sit around watching TV. I wasn't hanging out at the beach. I wasn't.
You were intentional. You were
Yeah,
intentional with that, those
absolutely.
2 years. And it's like, kind of like you're practicing. And when it's game time, you come out and it's like, how did this person get so good? It's like, oh, I was practicing all this time. And when it's time to show up, you were ready. And that's just so cool to see. And like you said, being able to track your own progress, like, oh, wait, something's happening here. I'm getting the hang of this. I know that was so, pivotal for you. So, okay, you had the 5 years of back cakes. And then, of course, within that time, the recession came along and you had that just really real intentional time to focus and hone in. So during the recession, so you were working at a regular job as well?
Well, during the recession, I was off. I didn't have any
Okay.
work, and I was getting unemployment. And so I was just, like I said, I was just doing my cakes and all that. But then what happened is even though at 2011, the recession wasn't over, there was still a 2-year period where I didn't have unemployment. And what I started doing was I started doing chefing for people in their homes and stuff like that.
Okay.
I did that for 2 years, and that was really hard. It was very difficult. So I didn't want to do that anymore. So I decided to go back to the offices again. So when I went back to the offices, I was kind of ready to start sort of showing off of what I knew, So I started doing things. I started bringing cakes into the office.
Oh.
I started like making stuff for people at work. I started talking about my business. I went and got me a cottage food license while I was there. I was able
Was
to.
that hard talking about your business at work, like connecting the two? Was that weird for you at all?
Not really. People really liked hearing about it. They liked the idea that I had other things outside of the office because it was just a basic office job. I was at the front desk answering phones. I wasn't really, I didn't really do a whole lot. I mean, it was a cool job because, it allowed me to still sort of focus on my business. I was able to do my cottage food license right at the front desk, So,
And you were able to get that feedback live at work,
right,
like, hey, food is in the break room. Let me
right.
know what you think.
Exactly. And whenever I brought something, I mean, they were like on it, like white on rice, So, and they loved all
Yeah.
the stuff I was doing. And like you said, the feedback was really good. And so that bolstered my confidence in what I was doing. And it showed me that, people actually will pay for my stuff, So I continued to just keep posting stuff on social media and on Facebook. And it got bigger and bigger. And while I was working at the office job, I was really busy on my weekends. I mean, I was busy during 5 days a week as I was working there. And then on the weekends, I was doing these little pop-ups, I guess. They were like little pop-ups I was doing. And then I was making stuff for people. So I was really, really, really busy. And I was so busy that it got to the point where I was exhausted. I started to realize that like I had to really do something serious with this and not have this just be a hobby. Because after a while, you do something like this, you start to think to yourself, okay, so what am I doing with this again? Like, am I just doing pop-ups? And where do I want to take this? And then the other thing that happened was I started getting calls from the Food Network, and they had saw my stuff on different social media sites, and they were calling me and asking me to, do auditions for their shows and stuff. And then I kept going on these auditions, and I wasn't getting them, and and then I had to ask. Like, that's when I really started asking myself, okay, what do you want to do? Do you want to be the TV person, and you want to get on all these TV shows, or do you want to be a really good, respected pastry chef? And if you want to be a good, respected pastry chef, how you do that? And that's when I really made the decision that the only way I was going to be able to feel like I can really do that and really give something and not just be a show type of person, but somebody who actually knows what they're doing and loves what they're doing and is passionate, is to have my own bakery. And so that's when that idea started to plant in my head that, I really wanted to do something legit and not just try to be on TV. Because the TV thing, The TV thing is just
it could be short lived, or it's so
right.
unknown still, even though it's,
Exactly.
amazing exposure.
Yeah.
The Food Network, and that's a huge decision to make. Because was that scary for you though when it was all said and done? Of like, oh, okay, I'm gonna really fully go this entrepreneur route full time.
Yeah, it was. It was very scary. And it was something that I had to really, really, really seriously sit down and make a real decision about because, those paychecks at the office were pretty good. It wasn't a bad gig and I had insurance and I had medical
Right.
and I had classes and I had everything paid for. And I'm going to leave all this to open a bakery, So, but I had to really think about it and I had to really get to that point where I really believed in myself and believed that, I could do this, and so I started to look around to see, what kind of buildings were around in Oakland, and I wasn't really finding anything, and everything I did find was was a little too large. I knew I wanted something small because this is going to be my first business. I didn't want anything that was too overwhelming and too big. And so I had to really think of, location, and a lot of stuff was expensive here in Oregon and in Oakland. And so,
I know it.
yeah, I had to think about the rent and that. The other thing that was going on at that same time was I was also working on my credit because my credit before hadn't been all that great. And so I started really working on my credit and I knew that if I was going to try to open up a business, I was going to need a loan. So I also spent a lot of time working on that. And I got to the point where my credit really was good and I was able to apply for a loan. But I had to first find the building. So one day I was just driving around the neighborhood and right in the neighborhood, kind of near where I live. And out of the corner of my eye, I saw the word bakery. And I had driven down the street many, many times and not even noticed that sign. And so I saw it and it looked like it was like a really, really small little place. And so I thought, oh, I got to, so I looked it up online. I looked at the address and I saw that it was a bakery called That Takes the Cake.
Okay.
I looked it up and I looked at their work and I thought, oh, okay. So I thought I'm going to go by there and, check it out and just look inside. Or maybe I'll buy a cupcake and see what it seems like. And I mean, I don't mean to put anybody down or anything, but when I went in and got a cupcake, it wasn't all that good. So
it happens.
And but what it did also for me is it showed me that like, okay, so if they can have a bakery here and sell this kind of stuff, you can do better than this.
It's no reason why you wouldn't be successful.
I can do this then, because if this is they've been selling this kind of stuff here for like 5 years. I was like, oh wow, okay, maybe
okay.
I think I can do this. That's when I really started thinking. And so,
and what year was this at this time? What's the time frame at this point?
This was about 2017.
Okay.
About 2017.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out all of what happened in 2017.
Yeah, so it was so around 2017, I started looking around for a spot, and I found that little place. And I also had just started working with a real estate guy, and so I told the real estate guy, I said, "Hey, I think I found this place, and can you do some research on it?" And then he did research, and he found out that the person who owned it really was trying to sell. She wanted to get out of it. She didn't even know how to bake. She was just running the place, and she wanted to get out and all this stuff, and she wanted to sell it, and so I met up with her and we were talking and stuff, and it was a little crazy because she was trying to sell me the bakery, and I was not interested in. I didn't want to buy her name. I already had my own name. I had my own ideas.
You wanted to start over and do your,
Yeah. Totally clean slate. I didn't even want the furniture. I wanted to clean that whole place all the way up, and so. She didn't really like that idea, and she wanted money, and it was a lot of back and forth. And then the other thing that happened was, so I started talking to the landlord, and so I said, let me speak to the owner of the building. And when that happened, me and the owner of the building started talking, and I ended up signing the lease. I signed the lease to get in there, and the woman that owned it, she said, "Fine, I'm going to get out." But then when me and her continued talking, and she kept trying to get money out of me to buy all the stuff she wanted me to buy, and when I turned her down, she went back to the owner of the building, and then the owner of the building took the lease away from me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they took the lease away from me, and then I was back to square one again. I didn't have my building.
A location. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't have my location. So then I was really disappointed. I just said, okay, well, we got to keep on looking. We weren't finding anything. And
did you have a team at this point, or were you still solo?
It was just me. It was just me and my real estate agent. And he was really helpful. He was an amazing guy, really, really helpful, and sat down a lot of times and told me everything that was going on and what I needed to do, and gave me really good advice that really, really helped me. But it was some shady stuff that was going on trying to get into this building. And I'm not, I don't want to say everything that went on, but it was really shady, and I didn't know everything. I was a little green to this whole process of signing contracts and buildings and landlords and all this stuff. I didn't know anything about it, and they knew it. They could sort of see that I was a little not experienced in all this. So that's why I really valued my real estate agent. He was really, really
someone helpful. Really sharing like some insight with you, because I think too, a lot of times with Black people in general, but as we're entering into the business space, it's so much that we don't know for obvious reasons, and historically, or we may be the first like person in our family to even do these kind of things, or we may know the blueprint based on Google, like, oh, I should look for a building, and then like you see parts A, B, C, but not A1, B2, C3. Like we're not really that knowledgeable, and we have that learning curve in a sense, and I think that we can easily be taken advantage of, or people kind of count on you to not know. And then even with business loans, we could have a whole business plan, projections, numbers, all that stuff, and it's kind of like it's just harder for us.
It is, because it's not something that was talked about. It's not always talked about in your family. Like you said, you might be the first one that decided to open a business. So who's going to tell you what to do or how to do it? Nobody. You don't have that knowledge. And I didn't go to business school. I barely even took a business course. So I was really kind of going into this blindly. The one thing about me is that I've always kind of believed that even though I might not know something, I can learn it, and I do go into a lot of things totally green and not knowing what the heck I'm doing. And a lot of times people sort of criticize me, oh, he doesn't know what he's doing and all that kind of stuff. But I'm a quick learner and I can figure it out. And so,
and that's what's going to set you apart. A lot of times it's so often to get caught up in, I don't want to look stupid. I don't want to look like I don't know what I'm talking about and what I'm doing. And you can find yourself just stuck and not taking leaps at the right time, when everything is working together and building upon each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And, people not taking you seriously and, screwing you over in the process. And, you learn a lot of lessons the hard way when you do it that way. And I've definitely learned a lot of lessons the hard way. But at the same time, I've still learned them, and I know that I can also pass that information down to anybody in my family that's trying to start a business. Because now, that was also one of the things I always wanted to do, was sort of be an example for the younger people in our family who, don't, because I think in Black families, a lot of times we always talk about a job, and a job is good to have. I've been working my whole life, so I've always had a job. But I also think that it's good to really talk about other alternatives other than just having a job, and working for yourself. I think is one of the best things you can, really do, and really focus on a career, and not always just a job. And so, that's really what I've always, or at least in those years, that's what I was really thinking. I got tired of working for people and working in offices and, always just having to go through all that kind of, these different jobs and different
Yeah.
and all that stuff. So,
And that's why it's such a celebration when you think of where it all started until now. And we haven't really talked about it a lot today, but you did a lot in your apartment, in your home, and taking orders, and just the power of the word of mouth. People just requesting it and telling others about it, and it just really outgrew the apartment to where it's like, oh wait, hold on.
it really did. It looked like a factory up in here. And, yeah, and I even, I had a lot of stuff in my kitchen, of course, but I turned my bedroom into like a studio, and I got like a smaller bed, and I got rid of a lot of the furniture, and I started putting things that were more bakery orientated in there. I got a big old desk for me to work at, and tables and all that kind of stuff, and chairs and everything. So, yeah, it started to look like a real factory up here. But that's the other reason why I knew I had to get a bigger space, because it was like I was using up so much of the space in my apartment that there was like almost nothing left,
And that's just cool too. You were really setting your environment. You had the vision, and at some point, okay, I'm going to get out of here, but in the meantime, let me repurpose my apartment and make it work for me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I really did do that, and it worked for a while, until it just got to the point where it was just so overcrowded up in here, and I knew, that was the other big sort of thing that I realized, that like, I really need more space. I have to, like I said, I had to either go big or go home, and I just decided to take it to the next level, and so like I said, there was like a lot of little drama, and there's definitely some discrimination in there.
Yeah.
Dealing with the different people that I had to deal with in order to get into this building. Because one thing that I found out was, well, one of the things that happens once she took the lease away, I had to ask her, so why did you do that? What happened? And she was like, oh, I don't get a good feeling. And I didn't understand what she was I was like, what do you mean you don't get a good feeling? What did I do something? Did I say something? And then she started saying things like, oh, I'd rather not have anybody in there than have somebody that I'm uncomfortable with. And I thought, uncomfortable? I was like, what does that mean?
That you word.
Right. Okay. And I was like,
such a word where you're like, okay.
Okay, right. I'm like, what's making you uncomfortable? And then the crazy part is, so about 2 months went by, and this is probably around, this is between like October and December. And right around December I got a call from her, and I hadn't heard from her in a while because we were still looking for another space. And so she called me, and she said, are you still looking for a place? And I said, yeah, I'm still looking. I said, is this space available? She said, yes, it's available. I said, oh.
Well, look how the tables turn.
Right. Well, it was still kind of shady though, because she said, well, let's talk some more and all this kind of stuff. And then she said, can you go down to the space right now? There's some people there, and they need your help, and they want to take some stuff out, and they want to know if you want to keep some stuff and all this.
What?
So I went down there, and when I went, there were these people there, and they were like, hi, who are you? I said, oh, well, I'm supposed to be taking over this space pretty soon. And I said, who are you guys? And they're like, oh, well, we're the people who are actually in it, but we're moving out. And I said, oh. So I said, so you signed a lease to get it? You're in here? And they were like, oh, yeah. And I was like, oh, so she actually did bring some people in here. But what happened was, they were a marijuana bakery. They wanted to start.
Oh.
And
oh my gosh. And she didn't know, is what I'm guessing.
What was that?
I'm guessing she didn't know that maybe ahead of time.
Well, I don't know, but she found out, because what happened was, when the next door neighbors found out that a cannabis place was coming in, they called the city, because the place next door is a karate place for children.
Oh yeah, that's a lot going on.
Yeah,
that's a lot going on.
And yeah, so when the city found out, they had to leave, and then that's when she called me. Because
isn't that interesting how that all came full circle?
Yep. Yeah. And so I was able to sign the lease, sign another lease. And then it was like, okay, now I'm on my way. And then I got the loan and I was like, okay, great. But so I got the money and everything, but I realized at the time I didn't, once again, I didn't know the whole process of how to put a business together and how to go about this whole thing. And in my head, I kept thinking, oh, well, this is great. I got enough money. I can do what I want. I can, I didn't need to really, at least I didn't think I needed to do a whole lot of fixing up because it had already been a bakery. So I figured all I'm going to do is come in here and paint the place and put some new lights up and some tile, and we'll be open in a month. That's what I thought.
Well, I'm like, what was the real stuff?
So the real stuff was that I had never worked with the city before, and inspectors and permits and, all the different laws and the different things that you have to know about what goes into a building and what you're not supposed to have in a certain building and what you need and all these different things. And so nobody told me this. I did not have a consultant or anything like that guiding me and telling me, okay, David, you need to go here, or you need to talk to these people, or you need to go to this department, or you need to call this number or whatever. And so I was literally being guided by like my contractor and, my designer and stuff like that. And so I was getting things, I was buying things, I was, getting the place painted and getting it all fixed up and all that. But I didn't realize that there were so many more steps that I had to take. As soon as it seemed like once I sort of finished one thing, it was a whole slew of stuff that I didn't know anything about that I had to do, ADA stuff. I had to make sure that the place was ADA compliant. I didn't know that. These were all things that I was learning as I was going. But these things take time. You know what I mean? You got to get a different kind of contractor to come in and put that kind of stuff in. And then it costs a lot of money. And then you got to go back to the city buildings and you got to fill out all these different papers. And you got to let them know what you have, what you don't have. And, it was.
It sounds like a crazy
it was amazing.
Headache. I would cry like once a week. Just trying to keep my head above water. Like, how long do you think that process took overall from signing the lease finally to opening the doors?
Oh, it took 2 years.
Wow. Like having that space, like you have the space, but it's so many other parts and things to do. Wow.
So many different steps. And so, so one of the things that happened during that 2 years was that, I was really still dedicated to having this bakery and putting money into it and getting it fixed up the way that I wanted it and making it look really nice and all that. But at some point I ran out of money.
I was going to say that it seems like you ran out of money.
Nothing was coming in. Everything was going out. And I didn't, next thing I know, I was broke and my bakery still hadn't been open. And that's when I really got depressed. And that's when I really started to realize that, like, okay, this is really difficult. And I'm in way over my head trying to put this whole thing together. And one point, I just got so tired of being in Oakland. I got sick and tired of dealing with this bakery. I got tired of just people coming up to me on the street. When you opening? When you opening? When you open? I didn't have an answer for nobody. I didn't know when I was opening. I really, really didn't. And it was frustrating because every time somebody asked me that, it was just a reminder that I wasn't open, and that, and I really felt like, especially when I lost the money, I didn't have any more money. I just felt like, okay, I flopped. My dream didn't happen. It's over. And I flew up to my mom's house in Oregon and sat on her couch for 5 days and just cried my eyes out.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know what my future was going to be. I felt like, okay, I spent all this money, got this loan. What, how did this happen? And so when I went to my loan people, they were like, well, okay, so how do you not have any money? We gave you all this money. We want to see your receipts. I want to see your bank statements. I want to see your taxes. I want to see all this. And I thought, okay, great. Because I knew I hadn't done anything that I wasn't supposed to do. with that money. I didn't go to any trips. I didn't buy a new car. I didn't get
Yeah.
married, none of that stuff. So,
Nothing was mishandled. Yeah.
right. So when it came time to give me everything, it was like, bam, here are the receipts. Bam, here are my taxes. Here's the bank statements, everything. They went through everything. They looked through it all. And the only thing they came back and said to me was, "Oh, do you want another loan?" And I was like, yeah.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's
Because I was like, okay, this is how I guess this is all good. Because one of the things that happened while I was at my mom's house and I was, really upset and I was crying, I started to realize that I was holding on to this so tight that it was driving me crazy. I was going to either have an ulcer or a hernia or really depressed or something. And I kept telling myself that, if this is really supposed to happen, you don't need to hold on this tight. Loosen the grip a little bit and let God handle it. When he opens the door, walk on through. Don't worry about nothing. Just the path is open, walk through. And I once I sort of realized that, and I stopped holding on so tight and being so intense about this whole thing. And I just thought, you know what? If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. That's when different doors started to open. That's when the door of, getting another loan, you can, that happened, because I didn't know what I was going to do. It was just a really, really confusing time. And so when that
It's
happened,
like you were being tested. It was like a 2-year test of how bad do you really want this?
Want this. Exactly. And you got to really want something to hold out that long, 2 years.
Yeah. That's a long time.
Yeah.
Again, I told you the 5 years of bad cakes. I don't know.
I know.
was like, I don't know.
I would have gave up a long time ago. But...
Let me stick with the dinner parties with my 4 friends, and I would have kept it low key.
Right.
And then, so I feel like you just everything, all roads, kept leading back to the same place, and it just really showed you like, wow, I really want this. I'm really connected to this. And it's like, soon as we're on the verge of just throwing our hands up, that's when a door usually opens.
Yeah. No. Okay. So this is another funny little story about how I got the second loan, because I didn't have any money. And when you get a loan, you need to have,
like revenue and
right. You need to have some kind of income or something to show that you can pay the loan back. And I didn't have anything. So it was funny because I needed to show them that I had 20% of what the loan was going to be. And so then by that time, my credit was so messed up. They were like, sorry, you can't do this. And then they were like, well, if you know someone that can get the loan for you, we'll give it to them. And then, I said, okay, great. Cause I don't even need it. I'll have the money back to you in 2 days, And so I went to a friend of mine and I said, look, can you do me a huge favor? And can you go and get this loan from me? I just need it in order to get this other money that I'm trying to get to open my bakery. And so, he said, well, how much do you need? I said, I only need like $10,000. And, I said, can you do it? I said, I'll even pay you to just help me out and do this. And he said, don't worry about it. He said, I'll give you the money. I said, where are you getting, you got $10,000 on you? Where are you getting that kind of money? And he goes, remember my mom died. She left me money.
Oh, wow.
2 days later, I had $10,000 in the bank.
That's crazy.
And I got the loan. And that's how I opened.
So just to be clear, you're saying that in order for you to get approved for the loan, they needed to for you to show that you have some kind of revenue, income, money, some way for them to trust you of like, okay, we'll give you another chance.
Yeah, I had
to give you this loan.
Yeah, I had to show them that I had 20%. I guess it's like good faith or whatever. They need to see that. And I didn't have a dime. I didn't have nothing.
Isn't it crazy how you never know who's going to play what role in the story? And it's like, wow, like you never know who's going to show up. Or sometimes you could assume it's going to be this family member or this friend, and it could just be someone. And it's just like, oh wow, you would do that? That's amazing.
And it's sometimes somebody that's not even there permanently, but who's just there temporarily. And then to sort of maybe, I don't know, if God sent him to just fulfill this situation for me. And then that was it. Because I just had, I have a lot of faith. I have a lot of faith in the Lord. And something kept telling me to just keep going, just walk through those doors, just wait till he opens the door and just walk through it. And then I didn't get myself stressed out, because I just knew
being at peace, releasing. Yeah.
Something just told me that this was going to work out, and it did, and so that's really how we opened, and I got the loan, and like,
you haven't looked back ever since.
Right. Yeah. It's funny because when you look back on all the stuff that I went through, it just seems like there was all these different steps that I had to go through, and and it all worked out, and it ended up being exactly what I wanted it to be. The business is doing good, and it's just.
And you basically opened during the pandemic,
I opened
leading into that time, before.
Right before the pandemic, I opened, and just a lot of, once I opened, it just seemed like all these really amazing things started to happen. There was this one woman who had hit me up on Facebook, and she was like, I've been watching you and watching your progress and looking at your cakes and all the things you do. They're so creative and they're beautiful. And I know you work really hard. And, when you open up, let me know, and I want to help you. And I said, well, what kind of help are you offering? And she said, well, I do PR. And I said, oh, okay. I said, okay, I'll let you know. And as soon as we opened, I called her and I said, well, we're about to open. and she said, okay. And I always know that good public relations and getting into the press, those are really good ways to get noticed, and you need those things. And so one of the first things she did was she got a reporter to come over to the bakery and just to start talking to me about just the whole story of getting open and all that. But it was funny because, we had already been open probably maybe about 3 months. We opened in November, and this all happened probably around January of 2019. Oh, no.
2020.
2020, January 2020. And so, she started to tell me, okay, well, we need to do this, and, we'll get you into some press. And, I thought, okay, great. So the first person that she sent over was this reporter from Berkeley side. Now, I had never heard of Berkeley side. And when I heard Berkeley side, I thought, okay, well, that's cool. It's a Berkeley newspaper or a Berkeley, blog or something. And so the reporter came over, and she was like, well, let's talk about how you opened, and let's talk about, why did it take you 2 years? And I thought, so I don't know. I said, you want to talk about all that stuff? It's kind of depressing. And, I really didn't want to talk about it because it was still kind of near to that part. Yeah, it wasn't that far in the past. And I didn't want to talk about it. I felt like, let's stay on the positive road. We're open now. Let's stay on that road. And she was like, no. I want to really talk about everything that happened. And so I told her my story. I told her all the little bumps in the road and all the different things that happened and all that stuff. And she just wrote all this stuff down and built this whole story. And it's funny how when you're going through things, you don't see it the way other people see it. I did not see this whole thing as like a triumphant story. I didn't look at it like, oh, I went from here to there, and it started off, kind of slow and really bad, and then it got better, and then now I'm open. I just looked at it like, a lot of bad things happened that I don't want to think about no more. I don't even want to talk about it. Let's move on. But then what happened was when the story came out and it hit, I was not prepared.
Is that the article that you have on your Instagram? I remember reading that, and I was like, whoa, who is this guy? I want to know who this is. So it was great that you did it.
Right. Yeah. And I'm glad I eventually talked about everything. And because they really, the story ended up being like this really triumphant story that I didn't see when I was telling it and even going through it. I didn't see it that way. I just, I just sort of saw it like, oh, I went through a whole lot of stuff, and now finally I'm able to open, and great. But she really framed the story really well, and people gravitated to the struggle. They really gravitated to that part of the story, and then the fact that I actually opened, and the story literally went like viral. And when I first opened in November of 2019, there was nobody in that bakery. But people were just walking past, and, nobody was coming in or nothing. We tried to tell people. We stood outside and handed out free samples and cards and business cards and tried to stop people on the street. Nothing. Nobody was coming in. We were sitting there just twiddling our thumbs. As soon as that article came out, it was like the whole city of Oakland was at the front door. The phone wouldn't stop ringing. It was just
wow.
No, I wasn't ready.
That's like, it makes me think of two things. It's like, one, of course, the power of PR, which is crazy. Like, whoa, okay, that had its place. But it's crazy how sometimes it's the thing that we don't want to do. Like, oh, I don't really want to do that article. I don't really want to talk about that. I don't really want to do this or that. And it's the thing that could change the trajectory of everything. It kind of changed the pace. And now that we know, like you said, looking back, and the pandemic happened really shortly after, that at least gave you kind of that foundation to sustain the storm.
Right, exactly. And I had to really think on my feet and really sort of figure out what the next steps were going to be, because I didn't, who saw the pandemic coming? Nobody saw that.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
But it's like everything you've been through, it prepared you for that. Not even necessarily like you had this blueprint, but
Right.
it's more so you've seen it all. Like, I know we can get through this because I've gotten through all of these other things.
Exactly.
And you come too far. It's like, wait, I've came way too far.
Right. I'm not giving this up. No way.
Yeah, no way. No way. No way. Wow, that's so amazing. I know we have to wrap up soon, but I want to end it on just a positive note. Two questions. What is advice that you would like to give to others that may be on a similar path as you are on, and what's next for you?
Well, yeah. So advice-wise, I would really advise anybody who is trying to open up a small business for the first time and not really understanding the whole process of it to really get as much information as they possibly can from the city that they're working with and who they're getting their loan from. No one told me that I needed a consultant. That's a really important word to know when you're trying to do a business, because that's the person that's going to help, that's going to guide you through it. So if this is something that you're trying to do, you don't want it to take 2 years or longer. I know somebody that it actually took 4 years to open her business. So you don't want that to happen. Yeah.
Not if you can avoid it.
Right. Exactly. So you want to really ask a lot of questions and really do your research and find out who is going to guide you through this process. And I wish I had understood that and asked that question myself, because it wouldn't have taken quite that long. I thought it was good. Like I said in the beginning, I thought it was going to take a month. So that's the advice.
Wow, 1 month to 2 years. Yeah.
The other part of it, I would also say, is be sure that this is something that you absolutely are passionate about and that you really, really want to do, because that's what kept me going. That's what held me on to keep going past all of the crazy stuff and the failures and the different, ups and downs that I went through. I love what I do. I love baking, and I love the idea of making what I make and giving it to people. And that was really the big thing for me to keep going and to stay focused on. So you have to love it. You really, really have to.
You have to.
Yeah, it has to be almost like an obsession, really, So what's next for me? I would love to expand the business.
Okay.
Really want to open up more shops, more bakeries. I think this would be an amazing place to open up, maybe even in a different state. I would love to have another one here in California. I don't know if I want one here in the Bay Area. It's really hard to open up a business in the
Yeah.
Bay Area. And I don't know if I want to go through all that again because, but I mean, I know the routine now, so it would be easier for me, but I still feel like, I don't know. As far as like the Bay Area, it being business friendly, small business
Mm-hmm.
friendly, I don't know. I still have my doubts about that, but I would love to venture out, expand, and turn this into something really big. Because I think this bakery is it's unique. There's not a lot of custom cake shops around, and I think we're kind of the only one, or maybe one of a few here in Oakland and in the Bay Area. So expanding is definitely something I want to do, and I would love to. Get more high profile people involved in the bakery and go to, do more high profile events. And, I think with COVID ending, we'll be able to probably do those things. It's been kind of tight with COVID. We've had to sort of stay close to home, but now that COVID's over with, we can start doing a little more, schmoozing and meeting people and, hopefully going to some different parties and spreading the brand out a little bit more and talking to people and, making the bakery a little more well known. So.
Yeah, it's only up from here, and that's what's so exciting. And for Black Directory, we're so excited to just start having events. And best believe, if there's anything in the Bay Area, I will be calling you like, all right, let's do some catering and just getting just some amazing desserts out to people and just putting a smile on everyone's face. And if you ever want to expand to Houston, I would greatly appreciate it.
Oh yeah,
But you
yeah.
you just think about that. I'm going to do some research. I'm going to do some initial research.
I heard it's pretty easy to open a business in Texas. At least I heard that. I don't know for sure, but
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. But I know with Houston, it's Black businesses everywhere. Like it's very, which is a reason why. Yes. You won't be the only one that's doing something, which is pros and cons to that. But it won't be so foreign where it's like no one will approve the luck. Like, you're just totally out of luck on this other end of the spectrum. So it's cool. It's motivating to see like, oh wow, like now you see it's just endless, which is really cool. But I can't wait to see what you do. And I feel like it's almost like as COVID is coming to an end or whatever we want to call it, as it's slowing down, it's almost like someone hit the play button. Like everything was on this weird kind of pause in a sense. Like things were going, but it felt like the world was like on a pause or on a break or something. And now it's like, wow, anything can take place and everyone's really about to get out there. Everyone's ready to try new places if they haven't been there yet, new food and just explore. And I think events are making its way back as well. So I think it's going to be a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, me too. And I can't wait for them to get started because I'm ready.
You're ready?
Yep.
You stay ready though. Your story is like you are ready. Like, all right, let's go, let's do it, and that's what really sets you apart. But I'm just so happy that you've had a chance to talk with me today and just share your story with me and trusting me with your story. And I'm just so happy and grateful for you. And thank you so much. This was awesome.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Of course. And before you go, and also everyone, I'll drop more information in the show notes as far as the website and just how you can find more information. But let people know where they can find you.
Yeah, so my website address is Sugarsweet Oak. That's SUGARSWEETOAK.com. You can also find me on Instagram at the same name, Sugarsweet Oak. I am also on Facebook and again under Sugarsweet, or you can go to my other page, which is Pastry Chef David Benton. So those are the main places that I go to that you'll find me.
Yeah. And you can also find him in the Black Directory app. We have him featured. So We'll also have his information connected there, as well as directions of how to get there. So if you're ever in the Oakland area, or if we have any Oakland listeners out there, if you haven't stopped by, this is a great time to explore this Black-owned business. And yeah, thank you so much, so much for this.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for spending some time with us. Enjoying the show? Be sure to subscribe and leave us a rating and review. Interested in connecting with Black-owned businesses and joining the family? We got you covered. Download Black Directory in both the iOS and Android app stores. Until next time.